All right, folks, welcome. You got Mahoney's top political parties. Here we go. Let's try and make these fonts a little bigger so you can see them better. And I will post these on Google Classroom when we're done. So first thing I want to bring to your guys' attention is a link at the top. At the top, guys, I've linked you to this website right here, which is a summary with a little bit more detail of some of these parties. And they go into detail on a couple that I don't think are that important. So just again, I've linked you to this. It's a good refresher. So consider looking at that website link once we're done. Okay, guys. So the first parties I wanted to talk about, this is called the first party system. When they say the first party system, they're really talking about the political parties right after the Revolutionary War, 1780s to 18 teens. These are the Federalists and the Republicans. A lot of people say, wait, what about the Anti-Federalists? They're not part of the first party system, guys. As soon as we have a constitution, the Anti-Federalists stop being a party. They become Jeffersonian Republicans. So again, when you're thinking Federalists and Anti-Federalists, that's only for a short couple of years while we're debating the Constitution. Once we have the Constitution, we develop to Federalists and Republicans. So as you guys know, Federalists believe in a strong central government. They want much more authority than the Articles of Confederation grants them. They want a federal government that has a Bank of the United States. They believe in a federal government that does things like builds roads and canals. They are totally okay with the federal government having debt. They're fine with the government having tariffs, totally fine with a uniform currency, and they want a loose interpretation of the Constitution. Remember, there's two ways to interpret that thing, folks. Really strict. We can only do exactly what that document says, or you can interpret it loosely, open to interpretation. Federalists tend to like a loose interpretation because it allows the federal government to do more stuff. You should also remember that the Marshall Court backs up a lot of the Federalist ideas. The rulings of the Marshall Court tend to reinforce the ideas of the Federalists. So when you see Federalists, I want you to think of Hamilton and his banking plan. I want you to think of men like John Adams and George Washington. These are the men who believe in a strong central government. So know who the Federalists are. And guys, you're going to see so much continuity with this. This debate still is going on today. How strong should the federal government be? How weak should they be? How much authority should states have and what have you? So you've got your Federalists, and then in opposition to them, we've got our Republicans or our Jeffersonians. These are men like Thomas Jefferson and James Madison. Now, these guys are supporters of a weaker and less active government. They don't want the government having tariffs to protect businesses in the northern states. They don't want the government spending your tax dollars on roads. They want an inactive government, and they believe in a strict interpretation of the Constitution. They are major supporters of states' rights, guys. They want local government to be in control. They want the states to be the ones calling the shots, not the federal government. These people essentially have some fear of federal authority, and it makes sense for that time. Remember, we just broke away from a king. They're very hesitant to give authority to any type of executive or central government. They are advocates of states' rights. They're advocates of local authority. And they also want to be the judges of whether or not something is unconstitutional. You've got to think of the Kentucky and Virginia resolves here, folks. That's when Jefferson convinces these two states, Kentucky and Virginia, to try to nullify a federal law. And I hated the law that they tried to nullify. I was agreeing with these guys here. Remember that Alien and Sedition Act from 1800 with John Adams during that conflict between France and Great Britain? Jefferson said that that law is unconstitutional, and he tried to nullify it through the states. But unfortunately, you can't do that, guys. They do not want a central bank. They do not want federally funded internal improvements. And they have a strict interpretation. Anti-Federalist guys, again, they're only in existence for a short period of time. And once the Constitution is adopted, Anti-Federalists will become Republicans or Jeffersonians. Please, please, please remember that without these people, the Anti-Federalists, we might not have had a Bill of Rights. They insisted that we add a Bill of Rights. As they're reading this document, they're like, I see you've got all these provisions for the central government, but what about for the individual? Where's the individual's right to freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of assembly, freedom of protest, what have you? These guys, although I don't normally agree with them ideologically, we're really, really lucky that they demanded that that individual Bill of Rights be added. So there's your Anti-Federalists. And again, they're not a thing after our Constitution passes. So, folks, these are our two major political parties in this era, the Federalists and the Republicans. Into the 18 teens, we're going to start changing how voting works. Remember, folks, states control who votes. Right now, guys, California is announcing that they're probably going to do 100% of the next election by mail. Not all states are going to do that. States control who votes and how voting works. Most states, before the 18 teens, require you to own property in order to vote. If you're a poor white man, you ain't voting. If you're a woman, you're of course not voting. If you're black, you're not voting. You're only voting if you are a property-owning white male until the 18 teens. In the 18 teens, most states start changing those laws. They call this the universal white male suffrage. This is not a federal law, guys. This is not something that happens in one stroke. These are individual states eliminating their property requirements for voting. And by the 1820s, when Andrew Jackson's elected, you no longer have to own property in order to vote. So that's the only thing I could say for that random DBQ prompt. Remember the one I showed you from like 2012? This will greatly increase voter participation. I can think of other things like in Reconstruction and stuff that'll increase African-American voter participation, but damn, that one's a hard prompt. So anyhow, Jacksonians, guys, they're going to take the ideas of the Jefferson Republicans. They're going to believe in small federal authority. They believe in states' rights. They don't like things like the tariffs. Think about John C. Calhoun and the nullification crisis, because they don't like paying more for items. I want to buy the cheap imported goods. Don't make me pay more for an American-made good. I don't care if that factory in Massachusetts survives or not. Why are you making me pay more money for the T-shirt just so that factory in Massachusetts can live? I could buy this imported shirt for way cheaper. They don't like the tariffs, folks. They think it favors certain northern businesses at the expense of southern consumers. So be aware. They don't like the tariff. They don't like nullification, or they don't like federal authority. They also do not like the Bank of the United States. Remember Andrew Jackson's bank war? They don't like the Bank of the United States. The Marshall Court, if you guys remember, is going to support the Federalists. The Taney Court will support Jacksonian Democrats. They're going to reverse some of the trends of the Marshall Court. They're going to start making some political decisions that, favor individuals, favor property owners, favor corporations, for example. My one example of that, guys, is the Warren River Bridge case. It's kind of a random one, but essentially they allow multiple bridges to go over a river where only one bridge essentially had authority to. And the logic being, hey, if I want to build a competing bridge with you, I should be able to. You can't be the only one doing that. This is like public land we're crossing here. If I want to risk my money and investment and compete with you, I can do that. Guys, it's not necessarily about a bridge. Think about it more in terms of the general protections for property owners and business owners here is what that more is about. So hopefully that didn't confuse you. But if you mention that the Roger Taney Court, they will reverse some of the trends of the Marshall Court and favor the little guy and favor small business, the Warren River Bridge case could be your example. So there's your Jacksonian Democrats. They're mostly supported by lower class and common people who are not involved in banking and manufacturing. If you're a laborer, you guys, you're going to probably be a Jacksonian Democrat. If you're a common man, you don't have a lot of money, you're probably going to be a Jacksonian. The opposition to the Jacksonians, guys, are the Whigs. Now, if you were a Federalist, you are now a Whig. The Whigs are a very big and very diverse group. Some of these people own slaves. Some of them hate slavery, but they're unified around their opposition to Jackson and their general support of business and manufacturing. Guys, there's a lot of plantation owners that own slaves are Whigs because they understand the market revolution and Henry Clay's American system. They understand the interconnection between northern factories and buying their slave products. They understand that without tariffs on imported British goods, there's not as much of a market for their slave labor products. So there are many Southern slave owners, guys, that are Whigs. If you're a business owner of a big corporation or you're involved in some type of interstate commerce, you're probably going to be a Whig. If you've got a business loan from the federal government, you're going to be a Whig. So the Whigs, guys, are going to be much more friendly to large business and international trade and commerce. Again, they're very, very diverse. Some of them are pro-slave, some are anti-slave, but they are unified around hatred of Andrew Jackson, and they are unified around a belief in a strong and an active federal government in terms of economics. They believe in Henry Clay's American system. You have to know what Henry Clay's American system is, guys. It's federally funded internal improvements, roads and canals. It's a Bank of the United States with a uniform currency, giving out business loans to people, acquiring debt, and they believe in tariffs. That's all Henry Clay's American system, folks. Federally funded internal improvements, Bank of the United States, and tariffs. If you are a banker, if you're involved in manufacturing, if you're a northerner or a member of the old middle class or older elite class, you're probably going to be a Whig. In the 1850s, the Whigs are going to totally collapse over the issue of slavery. The issue of slavery, as you guys know, is going to become more and more divisive. And by the 1850s, the Whigs can't stay together because they're going to fracture over the issue of slavery. Almost done. Thanks for hanging with me. We're in the 1850s now, guys. As soon as the Whigs collapse, they're going to be split. Many of them will become Republicans, guys. Now, Republicans originally are founded in the 1850s as a party that wants to stop the expansion of slavery. A lot of people think that the Republicans want to instantly end slavery. That's not true, guys. People like William Lloyd Garrison and people who demand immediate abolition, that's still fringe, guys. Even in the 1850s, even 20 years after The Liberator has been published, a lot of mainstream people are not demanding abolition. They're just saying we want to halt slavery's expansion. Don't let it spread Kansas. Don't let it spread west. Keep it where it is, and then eventually in a couple generations, the institution will die off. Republicans, guys, are, again, about limiting slavery's growth. That's what Abraham Lincoln runs on. He does not run on ending slavery. He never promises to end slavery until the middle of the Civil War. Anyhow, they are going to believe in a strong and active government in terms of race relations, guys. These are the Republicans during Reconstruction. These are the ones hammering through the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment. These are the Republicans that are setting up the Freedmen's Bureau and, you know, pumping tens of millions of dollars into improving the lives of African-American freedmen. These are the Republicans that passed the Reconstruction Act and abolished those Southern governments. You need to be aware that these Republicans, guys, they definitely believe in a strong central government in terms of race relations and equality and civil rights. By the 1880s, guys, they are going to still be the party of civil rights for African Americans, but they're also going to start to morph into a party of big business. They're going to give favorable tax laws. They're going to give the right tax breaks. They will have certain tariffs that businesses like. So be aware, guys, during the era of like the Rockefellers and the Carnegies, those guys are all Republicans. Republicans are going to be the party of big business. Still the party of African Americans in this time, but also the party of big business. If you're a labor union, folks, in the labor union member, you are not going to be a Republican in the 1890s or 1900. Even though the Democrats are the party of white supremacy still, if you're in the labor union, folks, you're going to be a Democrat here. Doesn't mean every Democrat is a white supremacist, but if you're a white supremacist, you're probably going to be a Democrat in this era. The Democrats, guys, are still known as the party of small government. They're still known as the party of states' rights and the party of the working man. And again, you've got to see the connection between the common man and labor unions here. Many labor unions, guys, are racist. There's in this era. I don't believe that they really are anymore, but you have to understand that a lot of these early labor unions that we talk positively about, they're racially exclusive. They are gender exclusive many times. These people are very afraid of losing their jobs out to people of ethnic groups and races that they don't identify with. So you got to understand who the Republicans are in the 1870s and 80s and who the Democrats are. The Democrats and the Democrats, guys, of this era, they're going to be this party until the 1940s. It's going to be the 1940s after Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal when that starts to shift. They'll still be the party of the working man, but they're going to essentially lose their white supremacist outlook by the 1940s. Here are a couple other randoms. We should be done within 5 minutes. We've got the Know Nothing Party. These are just randoms, guys. So this is our first and second and third party system. Again, first party, second party are Democrats and Whigs, and then the third party, Republicans and Democrats again. So those are the first three party systems all the way through the 1940s. During all this time, folks, we've got a whole bunch of random parties popping up. A lot of them don't last for very long. I just wanted to show you who they are real quick, the ones that I think are most important. Know Nothing Party is going to be founded after the increase in Catholic immigration. These people don't like Catholics and their influence. They certainly don't like the Irish. They view the Irish as non-white. The Irish don't speak English when they arrive. They speak Gaelic, and they are going to sometimes cause anti-Irish riots, and they are going to advocate for discrimination against the Irish and newly arrived immigrants. You got to know that the Know Nothing Party is a nativist party. That could be a DBQ topic, guys. Not just the Know Nothings, but to trace nativism throughout American history. Anti-immigrant sentiment against different groups. Know the Free Soilers. These are the people who rush into Kansas and rush out west to try to prevent the area from becoming slave territory. Think Bleeding Kansas when you think of the Free Soilers. These are people who want to halt slavery's expansion. Most of them are also abolitionists who want to see slavery ended instantly. These people believe in the cause so much, they're willing to uproot their lives in a place like Massachusetts, move out to the Great Plains to try to keep the soil free. Pretty self-explanatory. Think Bleeding Kansas. Think John Brown. Think popular sovereignty. Know the Progressive Party, folks. Now, progressive ideas have been around since the 1870s. The actual Progressive Party is 1912. This is Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose Party. Now, guys, they want to fix the negatives associated with industrialization. They want to break up large trust. They want to have a very active government involved in improving the lives of the working class. They advocate for controlling private property if the public interest demands it. They don't win their election, folks, but all of that progressive sentiment that's been building since the 1870s. Guys, Jacob Riis's book, How the Other Half Lives, it's been out for 40 years by the time Teddy Roosevelt's Progressive Party comes out. This has been like 40 years of progressive mentality building. We've had state laws here and there. We've had different reforms here and there. We've had food reforms and factory reforms and housing reforms. 40 years down the road, this is all going to culminate in what they call the Progressive Party or the Bull Moose Party. They do not win their election. This is when we elect Woodrow Wilson to be president. But just know who the progressives are in that context. Also the same with the populist, guys. The populist, that's the rural response to industrialization. They want government ownership of the railroads and telegraphs. They want more paper printed that's backed off of silver. They call that getting off the gold standard. Cash is not in large supply, folks. They want more cash. They have more ability to pay their debts off. They feel like if we start printing money based on silver and gold, there'll be more cash in supply. They think it will relieve their economic situation. Think about William Jennings Bryan and his famous Cross of Gold speech. That's the rural response to industrialization. And our final two. Got to know the socialists, guys. You got to see that industrialization is a really important period in American history, folks. It throws us into quite an era of controversy. You got the rural people tripping. You got the people in the city demanding reform. You got new radical left-wing groups like the socialists on the scene. You got to understand that they advocate for the massive redistribution of American wealth. Guys, the socialists are not anarchists. Socialists are not advocating for the overthrow of the American system. You wouldn't know that if you listen to Republicans talk about socialists today. But again, guys, socialists want super high taxes on the wealthy people. They want tons of government programs to help out essentially poor and needy people. They want wealth redistribution. I'm not saying that's a good or a bad thing. You yourself have to decide if wealth redistribution is a good thing or a bad thing. These people want high taxes. They essentially are arguing that there are way too many rich people in this nation. Things are not fair. It's not fair that a Carnegie or a Rockefeller should be able to get, these billions and billions of dollars while men who are working 60 hours a week can, struggle to get by. So again, they're demanding legislative reform and legislative redistribution of the wealth. It's up to you whether or not you think that's a good thing or not. Know the Socialist Party. Know who Eugene Debs is. He runs for president like 4 times, guys. He gets 1 million votes in one of these elections. Socialism right now is like a boogeyman word for some people, but it was a popular American political party at the time. So, and again, guys, that just speaks to the broader trend of industrialization. What does industrialization do to Americans? It's going to cause many Americans to look for answers in new ideas, whether it's socialism or populism or what have you. I don't know anything about the Greenback Party. Don't study it. I don't know. You can Google it. It's another one of them weird money parties that like trip off of the gold standard. I don't freaking know, but I put it on there. That's what Mahoney's got for his political parties. Are there a few more? Yeah, there are a couple more minor ones. And you guys will see that there's another party system after 1945 that we don't have to worry about. We don't have to worry about new Democrats and new Republicans after World War II. So just stick with those ones. I'm going to post this list on Google Classroom. I'll make it nice and small here, or not nice and small, but much smaller, back to like 11. So I'll post this list on Google Classroom so anyone can see it. We will then have Supreme Court cases, important compromises, and political parties done so far. So, bam. That's what I've got for you guys. Any questions before I stop recording? Was that helpful?
Yes, thank you so much. It was so helpful.
You're welcome, I was confused on like first party system and all those stuff.
It's just like chronological, just
Yeah.
chronological. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You only have to worry about 3-party systems, Federalists and Republicans, Democrats and Whigs, Republicans and Democrats. So if there's anything's confusing, guys, shoot me an email, let me know. Ask for a one-on-one Google Hangout. I got your back. All I care about is the people who are engaged and the people who want to pass the test. So that's what I'm focusing on, guys. Make sure you take a little bit. I think most of you guys have probably been working pretty hard. I know that some of these kids in distance learning aren't doing anything, and some of you guys are doing a ton. So, make sure you find a way to clear your head this week, guys. Yeah, I want you to keep reviewing and I want you to keep cramming, but do not stay up all night stressing about this stuff. Do not stay up all night studying, man. You guys are smart already. And, if you don't basically have it by now, there's, not a lot you can do in a week. There's definitely a little you can do in a week. I'm not trying to discourage you and say, don't do anything. I'm just saying, don't stress yourself out. Get outside, get some fresh air, do an hour or two of APUSH a day, and then move the hell on. Cool, guys. All right. So Monday, we are 12:30 for everyone, 12:30 in the afternoon. And then I'll do another evening session on Monday. Please, please, please do DBQ practice number 3, because that's the one we're going to go over on Monday. I'm going to show you perfect examples of it and less perfect examples. So cool. Anything else? All right, guys. Thanks for logging on. And